The ledger was never meant to preserve history. It was a supply book. Linen counts, ether usage, candle wax tallies, the kind of object sold cheaply at an estate sale because no one expects it to speak. But tucked between requisitions for bandages and morphine was a pattern no one could explain. The book belonged to a matron assigned to a field hospital outside Gettysburg in July of 1863. Her handwriting was precise, methodical, not the hand of a woman prone to imagination. And yet, every few pages, always at night, always marked with the same small symbol in the margin, she recorded something else. Temperature dropped suddenly. Breath visible indoors. That alone would have been dismissed. Hospitals were drafty. Tents leaked. But then came the next line. Voices heard. Not cries. Not prayers. Recitations. She wrote that the voices did not plead or scream. They spoke calmly, one at a time. Each voice announced a name, a rank, a unit, and a state, as if answering roll call. Private Samuel H. Boone, 20th Maine. Corporal Elias Turner, 69th Pennsylvania. Lieutenant James Caldwell, Virginia Infantry. The matron noted that the voices never overlapped, never repeated, and never spoke unless the air grew cold enough for breath to show. Other nurses witnessed it. Their reactions are recorded indirectly. Extra blankets requested. Lamps kept burning. Patients moved away from the north wall. One note reads simply, "Orderlies refuse night rotation." What makes the ledger unsettling is not what it claims, but how it treats the events as routine. The matron never questions whether the voices are real. She documents them the same way she documents blood loss or fever, cause, effect, response. Then comes the detail that shifts everything. She writes that when the voices finished reciting, the temperature returned to normal immediately. No gradual warming, no lingering chill. As if the cold had a purpose and once fulfilled, withdrew. In one entry, dated July 4th, she notes that a dying soldier reacted when the voices began. He turned his head toward the empty air and corrected one of them. "Rank wrong," he whispered. "Promoted yesterday." The ledger vanished into private hands for over a century. It resurfaced when a descendant sold it as part of a box of Civil War memorabilia. The buyer was a local historian who recognized the handwriting from hospital rosters and donated it to a small Gettysburg archive. That is when names were cross-referenced. Every name spoken in the ledger matched a soldier who died within hours of the recorded event. Not before. Not days later. Within hours, many died on cots inside the same hospital. More disturbing, several of the names were not officially recorded as dead until days later. Some were listed as missing. One was reported captured. Yet the voices had already spoken them. Researchers proposed stress hallucinations, shared trauma, hypothermia. None of it explained why the voices followed a strict format, or why no nurse ever reported hearing a voice they did not later confirm as real. There is one final entry. The matron writes that on the last night before the hospital was dismantled, the cold returned, stronger than ever. The breath fogged thick in the lantern light, but no voices spoke. Instead, she felt watched. She writes that the air itself seemed to wait, as if expecting someone to answer. The next morning, the ledger ends. Modern investigators who have studied the document report something they do not like to put in writing. When the ledger is opened in a quiet room, the temperature drops slightly. Enough to notice. Enough to see breath if the room is cold. No voices have been heard. Not yet. But if the battlefield remembers the dead, if the air itself holds the record, then Gettysburg may not be silent at all. It may simply be waiting for the conditions to be right, waiting to finish roll call.